At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
The Sacramento Metropolitan Chamber of Commerce's annual study mission exposes participants to another part of the country acknowledged for creating regional prosperity. People bring back the best ideas for all of us to consider implementing in our own backyard. Nashville, Tennessee was this year's focus, and two participants, Tim Murphy of Aerojet Rocketdyne and Michelle Odell of Kaiser Permanente, join us today to share what we can learn from the Nashville story. Tim, why Nashville?
Well, you know, Scott, I think if you Google Nashville, you'll find that it's at the top of most lists that the publications and newspapers put out there. Top place for entrepreneurs, top places for small business. The New York Times Magazine rated it as one of the top destinations to visit in the United States in 2014, worldwide. Nashville is arguably one of the most hot cities in the United States right now. And we felt that all the things that we can learn from Nashville actually could play a good role in learning more about what Sacramento is doing right now in our community.
And to think, I thought it was all about country music, Michelle. What struck you during your time in Nashville that you're like, wow, I didn't know that?
It was so much more than country music. Obviously, it's a music city. But when we landed in Nashville the first time and walked around, it really felt like we could be in Sacramento. And there were so many things that were similar to what we're doing. They have an arena right downtown that empties out onto the street. There's a city area, historical areas, a lot of new restaurants, a lot of young people. It really felt like it was a city we could learn from.
So did it feel more advanced than we are at this point? Because I never think of Nashville as a big city itself, but it sounds like that they've got some things going on where they might be a little bit further ahead than we are.
Well, I think they are in some respects. Certainly there's a lot that we're doing that is much further ahead than Nashville is. But what we really learned, and what's been the most telling thing about why they're successful, is they have a very strong public-private partnership and collaboration across the board in most every industry.
What exactly does that mean, public-private partnership?
Well, in this case, Scott, collaboration is really something that we saw all over Nashville. As we were going to the different venues where we were having our learning sessions, we happened to go down Nashville's Music Row. And this was something that was brought up by a number of people in the different panels that we had talking about collaboration. Music Row in Nashville, it's an old neighborhood, and the recording studios are actually, they're old houses that have been repurposed into recording studios. And what I picked up from it is that if you're running into a problem at home and you're working on something, you need some help, you go to your neighbor's house. And that level of collaboration in the music industry was underscored by people in the healthcare industry, people who are leading entrepreneurs in Nashville. That type of neighborly collaboration that you find between neighbors and your residents, you're finding that same level of collaboration in the business community. And it just underscored everything that we looked at.
Really?
You know, Scott, one of the things that was a takeaway that resonated while we were there, but really hit home after we left, and I was trying to get my head around what we had learned, was that everyone's focused on the same thing. And I wanted to say it's money, but that sounds sort of crass, right? But really it is. It's about how they can generate the dollars to do the things that they want to do for the community, for the residents, for the business community, and everyone's focused on how to do that the best way.
But how is that any different than any place else? Is there a different form of capitalism there or something like that? Well,
one of the things that was really interesting is a small group of us had an experience where we talked to the owners of a new venue there that's a restaurant. It's what they call a third space, where you really just hang out. And it's a new concept for a lot of cities, but what he was telling us, which was really enlightening, was that what they find in the restaurant industry and what he believes is the success and the key to success in Nashville is that everyone looks for reasons why new things can succeed, and no one ever really looks at why they can fail.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
In the entrepreneurial community, we had a great session with Michael Burcham, who is a startup superstar in the United States. He's been the lead of several successful medical-related startups, and he runs the National Entrepreneur Center, which is a private ship between a number of sponsoring companies in the city of Nashville. And the level of cooperation that they provide to young entrepreneurs who are coming in, they want to help them succeed, but they recognize if you're not meeting certain thresholds, we're going to fish or cut bait. You know, they recognize up front that there may be some people who aren't cut out to be entrepreneurs, but those who have the ethic and the drive and have the path to success, they work very well with those folks to help grow entrepreneurism in all kinds of industries, whether it's the entertainment industry, whether it's healthcare, whether it's the tech industry. There was a lot of app development we saw going on. It was an amazing climate, and no reason why we couldn't replicate the same thing in Sacramento.
When you talk about public-private partnerships for both of you, that usually indicates that there's a for-profit private sector part and a nonprofit or governmental sector part of that.
Right.
How does government support entrepreneurship or these types of activities in Nashville that might be useful for us to have here?
The leadership in Nashville recognizes that in order to have the economic development successes, that they have to be engaged in the conversations that are taking place in the business arena. And how do they find ways to support that? The Entrepreneur Center that I just mentioned, that was property that was formerly owned by the city of Nashville. It was these old car barns that the old trolleys in Nashville used to be parked in that had been repurposed for these new business uses. And that was the support that the city of Nashville offered with the Entrepreneur Center. When we went to the academies in Nashville, this is their linked learning partnership that business and the government have with the schools to help kids get an idea about what type of careers they want to go in and helping to provide internships. It was a great, the partnership was evident between all those parties.
When you talk about linked learning and they're replicating the same sort of academies that are just growing within our region, have they done, one of the areas we're focused on is on creating more internships and more real pathways. Is there anything that they're doing there that you said, aha, that's something that maybe we could do?
It was going on first in Nashville. Nashville is one of the early models of this type of linked learning opportunities, these partnerships with business and the schools. And so this was a chance, as we're getting our efforts up and off the ground, to actually go and see successes that have already taken place, so we can see, oh, so this is what success is going to look like. We visited Hillsborough Healthcare High School, which was a remarkable facility. We had small group meetings with students who were very knowledgeable and very engaged in their coursework as it tied into career paths that lead to business opportunities in Nashville. Nashville, I don't know if you knew this, but it is the largest for-profit healthcare center in the United States. 70% of all the private hospital beds are run out of Nashville.
Really?
It is a $30 billion industry employing over 200,000 people in Nashville. That's 1 out of every 8 citizens. So finding paths for kids to learn to get into healthcare for a career path, and then finding paths that for internships that actually lead to jobs. Nashville was all over it. It was just really remarkable to talk to these kids.
You know, what was fascinating about the way that the partnership work and the collaboration work, it really came through in that scenario as well. And one of the things that we saw that was interesting is the egos were removed to remove the barriers. And a barrier to internships that we face here in Sacramento is transportation. In Nashville, all students ride public transit for free.
Really?
They can get to their internship, they can get to a paid job, they can get to and from school. They don't have to ever think about whether they have the.
Every student in Nashville has the opportunity to go to the academy of their choice. They don't have to go to the high school that's within their their neighborhood. They can go all the way across town to go to another high school. Based on what that focus is.
Let me come back to this transportation thing. This is fascinating. Mm-hmm. So is that sort of K through 12, or is that college students? Who gets to ride for free on transit in order to increase mobility back there?
K through 12 is certainly, they have the ability to do that. I'm not certain on the university and higher ed, but I know that the purpose of that initiative was to create an opportunity for these kids to go to high schools in different areas and to do internships. So that barrier was just removed.
That must have taken an amazing level of collaboration.
And I think when you look at how we collaborate in our city, I mean, it's a good model for how we can come to the table and really find out what are the barriers and really look to remove them.
Now, this $30 billion healthcare industry that's located in Nashville, we have our own abundance of healthcare related enterprises here, of which KP is a significant player. And in the next economy plan, healthcare and health tech is a sector that we feel that we can exploit and grow further. Was there anything specific that you saw back in Nashville that you said, wow, you know, that would help our industry flourish a bit more?
So there's two things we learned from the healthcare sector. And the first is that HCA, which is the company that sort of started there and was the kind of parent of all this, their philosophy was, here, you're my senior executive, go out and start your own company, compete against me, figure out some new innovative thing. We'll support you, I'll mentor you, we'll fund you. And what's happened is that company has spawned, I don't remember the number, Tim, about 300?
Well, there are over 700 businesses that have been spawned off of what they call the healthcare family tree. About HCA is certainly the primary one, but there are 4 or 5 other businesses, and from that, there have been over 700 startups, businesses that provide ancillary support to the healthcare industry that have emerged out of Nashville, which is why it is such a huge driver to their economy.
So they see a need, and then they identify someone who can go out and figure out how to meet it, and they support them along the way. So that was a really interesting and critical driver for the economy that could happen in so many different industries, and doesn't.
What's amazing about this conversation is that neither of you went where I thought you were going to go, which was to talk a lot about music and entertainment, but I know that that's part of the brand. How does all of that fit together?
You know, as we look at Nashville being Music City, we'll talk about the brand for a second. So we've just gone through a whole branding process here in Sacramento, the Brandathon, looking to create a regional identity that we can all identify with, all the different parts of our region. Nashville, they were at first Music City USA. They went through a retooling of their brand, and they just dropped the USA because that made it too limiting for them. They're just Music City. They're Music City for the entire world. One of the reasons why we selected Nashville was to go and look at how they've implemented their brand, because Sacramento, we are the farm-to-table capital of the world. What can we learn from Nashville in promoting that brand? How can we apply it to farm-to-table so we can not only be...
Now, I got to interrupt you and ask you, is it farm-to-table or farm-to-fork? I always get confused.
I say farm to table. I hear other people say farm to fork. I think it's the same thing.
So we got to resolve that. It is the same thing. We got to resolve
that. Embrace our agriculture. But as Tim said, you get off the airplane and there's live music playing in the airport.
Yeah.
And that permeates your experience, whether that's evident to someone or not. And certainly they have, I think, probably the highest number of conventions in the country right now that are vying to get there. They've built a beautiful new convention center to accommodate that, and every corner is a crane in Nashville building hotels.
That would be nice to see.
Yeah,
that would be
touching
nice
also on the music, as Michelle said, music in the airports, but even walking downtown, the utility boxes that provide the power for the street lights and the street lamps and stop lights, they're wired with speakers, and so there's music playing downtown wherever you walk. They really have taken something that was very inherent to their culture. As we talked with the folks, music has always been a very big part of the culture in Nashville, dating back 100, 150 years. And as they were talking about developing a brand for their community, they kept coming back to it. It was something that they had that they took for granted, much as I think our region has taken agriculture for granted. But when you look at this, at the opportunities we have with ag and food tourism or agricultural tourism. There's no reason that we can't look at the model that Nashville had for building their healthcare system and applying that to our agribusiness and our food sciences sector. And in fact, UC Davis, members of the farming industry and members of local government have already said, people who are participating in Nashville have said, we want to bring this model back and we want to explore using that, and the Chamber is going to be the convener of getting this, this up and off the ground.
And you know what Tim's referring to is the Healthcare Council. And the Healthcare Council that's a part of the Chamber, and there's other industries that have councils as well. The CEOs from the major companies are sitting on a council and they're driving the economic vitality of that industry. It's a wonderful model. And beyond that, below that, they have leadership academies in each of those industry sectors where they're bringing up and coming leaders, industry specific, and teaching them how to lead.
Interesting. Well, let's talking about bringing people up. I'm sure that Nashville, like any other major metropolitan area, has its own set of challenges. Crime, poverty, all those sorts of things. Was there anything that you all learned in terms of how they meet the struggles of dealing with the folks that are the most challenged within their region that you said, wow, you know, that's something where it is that they're turning the corner on a problem, or they're addressing it in a unique way?
Yes. So as a matter of fact, one of the things that we learned before we went is that Tennessee had the lowest rate of wellness and health in the country for their residents.
Really?
So Nashville, Davidson County and Nashville and the city of Nashville really took on this idea of how do we create health and wellness for our residents? Because if we can't keep people in their jobs, keep them at work, keep them at school, our economy is sunk. And what was really unique about the model that I found interesting being in healthcare is that they approached it really specifically in two ways. It didn't approach it from a consumer model. You'd think that you're seeing a lot of things out in the country, walk more, you know, eat better, more vegetables, sleep, all of those things, right? We have a lot of messaging out. But what they said is, if we're going to do this right, we need to hit the businesses, and we need to hit the schools. And so they did a two-prong approach to say, okay, if we can get these people to get to work, to stay at work, really the whole presenteeism idea, right? That you're there and that you're not only showing up, but you're actively engaged and actively involved because you feel good and you're healthy and your weight's good and you don't have a lot of other issues. And that if we can teach the kids how to do health, right? How to eat right, how to exercise, how to use your brain in really healthy ways, how to use your body in really healthy ways, that's going to permeate the consumer. That's going to permeate the household. That's going to permeate
And
the
businesses
community.
have jumped on board with this?
Businesses have jumped on board. In fact, there's such high collaboration from a number of businesses. And we heard from a panel while we were there, and a lot of unique things and innovative ideas have come out of that. And there's a company called...
one of the innovative things that were on the school side of things is a company that has a curriculum that meets Tennessee state standards where kids do physical activity in association with classroom learning. So, you know, when you've got young kids in the classroom, you know, there's a lot of energy that they need to burn off during the day. There's this one program, it was I think it's called the Math Marathon, where the kids, they run alongside their desks and there's a video screen and it's a game and they're doing math equations, and over the course of a month they run a marathon. They run over 26 miles in place, standing by the side of their desks, as part of this fitness and education marriage in the schools. It was really cool.
Wow. And going back to linking workforce with population, anything that they're doing there so that way all of these prosperity benefits that are taking place are broadly distributed and accessible by people.
Education is really the key that Nashville is looking at to raise their students and to get them plugged in for the job opportunities that all of the entrepreneurism and economic development successes that they've had to meet all the jobs that are being created. So aside from the academies, one of the other things that we learned about, it's the Tennessee Promise. And this is a program that they have for community college, where Tennessee will provide a free community college education for every resident.
Really?
It's a program
We used to have that here.
We did. Tennessee has found a way to really use it, and we heard from one of the top executives with this program. It's a state-run program, but their perspective on it is that this isn't an education program, it's a jobs program. And so what Tennessee does, that a student will go to a community college and they will, whatever opportunities there are for financial aid with the college, they exhaust that, and then the state of Tennessee comes in behind and they will make up the difference.
Do you two as business executives ever get concerned when you see a program like that from a state like Tennessee? And we used to have free community college here in California, that from a competitiveness standpoint, that if we aren't doing those sorts of things, that one, we're not going to have a well-equipped workforce, and two, that's a draw for people to relocate away from California and to states like that. Does that ever concern you?
I think it does. Being in the business that my company is in, we obviously need to have a very qualified foundation of people who have background in STEM education, whether it's science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. And nationally, and same for the healthcare industry, it's a crisis. In the next 4 years, there will be as many as 3 million STEM-based jobs that go unfilled because we're not graduating enough students within those areas. And access to college for a number of the people of our community who are economically challenged, community college is the path for them to get an education. And if we were able to implement something like this back in our region, and actually Long Beach is doing this. They have a partnership with the Community College of Long Beach State, and the City of Long Beach to provide community college for people who go through their path. So it can be done. It doesn't necessarily have to be done by the state of California, but certainly looking at Nashville and looking at Long Beach, it's something that we should be looking at here in Sacramento.
I want to come back, Michelle, to something you mentioned a few minutes ago about everyone being on the same page and collaborating together so that a win for one is seen as a win for all. And this highly unusual stance that HCA took on actually funding future competitors. What do you think that, if that's something that we should replicate here, what do you think are the ingredients that we need to bring back from the Nashville experience in order to create that sort of environment for businesses and entrepreneurs to thrive?
So I think that there are things that happen in our community where we do that really well. And it's those burning platforms, right? And we can pull together really well. And we need to figure out a way to do it more often. One of the things that in Nashville that's very different from Sacramento is that it's one county, one city, and they're joined together, they're merged together. So it's one entity for sort of the greater region. And that makes a big difference because you don't have a lot of disparate interests fighting.
The balkanization.
Right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a little different recipe, but I think the power of what they can create by collaboration, because that's the public-private entity, but when you look at the business entity, when you look at the restaurateurs celebrating each other, I mean, that's a smaller industry that's just really booming there, and how they can help each other and how they can build off of each other. That's a recipe for success. So I think having those conversations, having honest dialogue in our community with leaders is going to be really critical, as we've started to do. And we're at the cusp of a transition. And I think what Tim was alluding to earlier with the farm to fork or the agriculture movement is embracing what we are, who we are, what we do best, what we already know, and having people understand how powerful that is.
When it comes to things like civic amenities, now, many of the things related to the entertainment industry and the music industry are I assume privately funded. But does the fact that they've got less balkanization in terms of their government have an impact on their ability to create the infrastructure, the civic amenities, transportation, public facilities, things like that, that maybe there's something that we should be looking at?
I think to a degree, but it can be a little difficult to judge because in the 4 days that we were there, we focused mostly on the downtown core of Nashville. So as far as the outlying areas, what they've done with transportation or other amenities, it was hard to say. But looking at the civic amenities in the downtown core, as Michelle said earlier, they've got a downtown arena that was built about 15 years ago. And as we are embarking on our own downtown arena, we had the chance to have some conversations with the professionals that were involved with the arena. We had Jeff Kogin, the president of the Nashville Predators hockey team, address our group. And we had leaders from the Convention and Visitors Bureau talk about the impact. And the one stat that I just find amazing, so the Bridgestone Arena, right in the middle of Nashville's downtown, right on Broadway where all the honky-tonks are located. When a game or a concert ends, the people don't get in their cars and drive away. And people come from quite a fair distance, we learned. People come 2 or 3 hours outside of Nashville for concerts in that area. But instead of leaving, they stay overnight at the hotels. They'll spill out into the streets after an event and they'll go to the honky-tonks or the bars or the restaurants. After Bridgestone was built, $60 million more of bottled beer was consumed at the bars and restaurants in Nashville, of which the city gets a 22% sales tax.
And I think we're going to have to leave it there with the aspiration that our arena does just as well. Thank you both. And that's our show. Thanks to our guests and thanks to you for watching Studio Sacramento. I'm Scott Syfax. See you next time right here on KVIE.
At Five Star Bank, community is at the heart of what we do. Every day we strive to have thoughtful solutions for our customers and help our communities prosper. Honest dialogue about the issues affecting the region is vitally important to that prosperity. We are proud to be part of the conversation and hope you'll join in.
All episodes of Studio Sacramento, along with other KVIE programs, are available to watch online at kvie.org/video.